this is my husband.
Stef and Spohr.
We live in Thickwood in Fort McMurray. Woke up on Tuesday morning, so it would have been Tuesday the 3rd, which was actually my due date, to some minor labor pains, which was exciting. It was fun to see the first steps of that progressing. So I had called Stef that morning. I did have an appointment at the hospital that day because I had a non-stress test booked. So I went down for that. It was booked for 1 o'clock, and Stef was able to come into town to meet me for that. And so that we got out. As soon as I walked out of the hospital, you could tell, you would look up into the hills, and the smoke was dark, and you can tell that the fire had really changed directions from when I went inside the hospital an hour earlier. So we were kind of doing our best to relax and see how the day progressed. So we were going to try and go for lunch, but we found out that our area was apparently going to be under an evacuation notice within the next half hour.
One of our firefighter buddies called us on our way to go get lunch and said that we need to go home and get packing because our area of town was soon to be put on the evacuation notice, even though the area right next to us was already on voluntary. It wasn't mandatory yet.
Yeah.
So we started heading home.
Yeah, we started driving home, and we could tell that traffic was already pretty crazy. Took about an hour for us to get from downtown to the Thickwood overpass, which if you're from Fort McMurray, you know that that's pretty crazy. My car broke down on the way up, which was unexpected. We've never had any car issues before, but the fan belt decided to put in its last notice then. So thankfully I got the car started again. We got up to our house, and we're kind of calmly trying to pack a couple bags, figure out if we wanted to head to Timberley to stay with some friends of ours until the notice was lifted, or if we wanted to try and go south and get to Edmonton and just get out of town.
Because of the contractions.
Yeah, because they were nothing serious, but it's hard to know how long I have. Like, if I'm going to have contractions for 3 days or for 3 hours. So, so we got into the truck, got on the road, and as soon as we started driving, we found out that the highway south was closed. So we thought, okay, I guess we'll head the opposite direction, head towards Timberley. And as we were on the road going that way instead, we heard on the radio that there was the mandatory evacuation for the whole city. So that's when things got a little bit crazy on the roads. If you want to talk about that?
So it was gridlock for us, and there was heavy traffic, and we hadn't moved for about 25 minutes, and we had slowly watched the flames get closer and closer to the tree line, and finally we were stuck in traffic, and we hadn't moved for about a half an hour, and people had started to sort of break formation. They had started to drive on the sidewalks and on the grass, and drive on the wrong side of the roads. And right when we had just passed this one corner, we looked in the rearview mirror, and the flames were coming up, and they breached the tree line, and it was 50-foot flames right behind us. And that's when I looked at Fallon and I just said, "Babe, we gotta go." So we too broke formation, and we started driving on the grass. We started driving on the path, doing what we were chastising everyone else for.
Yeah.
And finally made it to the next set of lights, and then we weaved our way through. There was some civilian out there guiding traffic, and we started driving on the wrong side of the road. We got down to another area of town, and we cut through an intersection between some businesses, and we were calling all our friends and telling them that they needed to get out as well. At that time, the radio evacuation notices were just on loop. So downtown had been evacuated, and all of the radio stations were just playing their recorded evacuations.
Yeah.
So we finally got out and made it over to this area where we could meet the highway. And when we got down to the highway, there was people already just parking on the side of the roads, like they were just going to wait it out and then return home, and they were just going through the motions, and including some friends of ours who finally heeded our warnings and got up and got out of there. And then we started heading north, and there was tons of traffic. People were all heading north towards the camps, and Fallon's labor was still going on, and so I finally just put the truck on, threw the hazards on, and got on the shoulder, and we started flying past people. They were honking and swearing and.
I've always said in the past, and when somebody's driving erratically, I've always said, you never know, maybe their wife's having a baby. And we always joked about that because it's like, you just hope the best, for people. So anyways, I didn't feel bad breaking the law because I'm like, I feel like I've had a lot of grace for people when they drive that way. So
we were trying to get north, and we were looking for RCMP to get an escort, and of course when you're breaking the law you can never find an RCMP officer.
Yeah.
So finally, after going about 25 kilometers north, we finally met up with an RCMP officer who gave us an escort into one of the camps where we'd heard that another woman was in labor, and an ambulance arrived shortly behind us, and we were feeling pretty good. We were calmed down a little bit. And then we were getting some food, and Fallon thought that her water broke. So we went and we got the paramedics, and Fallon went and rode in the back. And
of the ambulance.
In the back of the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was following her. I was following her in the ambulance, and then there was the other pregnant woman. She was behind them with her husband in their truck. And then I was behind them by myself, and another vehicle behind us. So we finally get out and we're on the highway, and I've got my hazards on again. And we're following this ambulance flying through the road. People who've been waiting, stuck in traffic for 3 hours, and I'm trying to call my parents, and they can't hear me over all the honking and swearing from people as we fly past them. But I'd do it again, no problem. The guy behind me had to swerve and dodge people who were actively trying to block him from getting through. So people didn't really realize what was going on. But we finally made it to Suncor Firebag and spent a little bit of time there in the makeshift triage unit that they'd put up. And
so the ambulance was great. This whole time we've been so thankful for all the emergency response personnel who really, I can't imagine working that day. You would never know what your day was going to look like, and their own families are being evacuated as well, but they're working and doing what they can to take care of everybody. So I remember just sitting in the ambulance thinking that these 3 paramedics that are with me, I'm like, they've got their own stuff that they're dealing with too. So I just wanted to say that because that really meant a lot for me anyway. So we got to Firebag, and immediately we were passed off to the hospital had evacuated to that site, so that's where the nurses and the doctors were all kind of getting set up. It was still early on, so you could tell that they were still trying to get a little bit organized. And thankfully for me at that point, my contractions, they were getting quite close together, probably just for the stress, but by the time we got to Firebag, they kind of cooled off, probably just like a lot of changes of scenery and meeting new people and stuff. They kind of just tapered off a little bit, so that was kind of nice because I didn't feel quite so stressed out about what was progressing. And we were only on site for about 45 minutes, and they immediately put me on a medevac plane to evacuate me down to Edmonton, and Stef thankfully was able to get on a second plane about a half hour later.
Yeah, so I was able to get on one of the 737s that they had seconded for evacuees, and it was me and the other husband alone in this plane. Tons of rows of open seats behind us, and we got the plane to ourselves and went all the way down to Edmonton to meet up with Fallon.
Yeah, so I got to Edmonton, and you're at the what's it called, the triage.
The AHS.
The AHS, yeah. I was at the AHS, and they just decided to send me directly to the Misericordia Hospital, and we got there early in the morning. It was probably about 2 in the morning, and everything was fine. It was calm. They ended up sending us out of the hospital for the rest of the night because I wasn't in active labor. And so we ended up going back to the hospital around 9 o'clock that same morning, and about an hour later, my water really did break. It didn't when I thought it did. Clearly, it was my first pregnancy. And so we found at that point that there was just a little bit of a complication, and so they were hoping that my labor would progress a little bit faster than how it would maybe naturally. So I ended up just getting induced so that it would move a little quicker. And yeah, she was born at 6:48 on Wednesday evening, Wednesday, May 4th. Yeah, a day after we were evacuated. So
9 pounds 20 inches.
so we named her Kennedy Melina Spohr. So we're so happy. She's so perfect, very healthy. Yeah, we couldn't be more pleased with how that all turned out.
Yeah, and so now we're here in Edmonton. We're staying with Fallon's sister Cassie and her husband Joel and their 2 kids. And Fallon's mom is up as well to help out. So that's been really great. And we'll be here for the next little while, probably before we go back to BC to be with Fallon's parents and my parents.
Yeah, some more family.
Until we're allowed back into the city.
Yeah.
Our house is okay for now. What we know, one of our friends is volunteering with the fire department, and he drove by and texted us some photos and said that, yeah, the house is still standing. So that's good news for us as well. We're very fortunate. We have a number of friends who have lost their homes in the fire and don't know where they're going to be. But fortunately for us, we have lots of support and lots of backup plan and lots of options. So
yeah,
we're really blessed, really thankful.
Truly, people, how they respond, like the province of Alberta and even all over the country, the amount of support that people will give in a situation like this is amazing. And it really, even just hearing somebody say, let me know if you need anything, let me know if you need a meal, just like knowing that that's there is so comforting.
Friends from high school that we haven't talked to for almost 10 years are Facebooking us and saying, hey, I don't know what to do, but I will send stuff from here in Vancouver if we can, and we'll send stuff. One of my buddies from high school gave our names to the massage therapy school here in town so we can go and get massages whenever we want. And like just an amazing amount of support. We've got like 20 different rooms we could be staying in if we wanted in a whole bunch of different cities. So
totally.
Yeah, very, very blessed.
So